What if the people you can't stand, the selfish, the arrogant, the weak, are actually showing you the parts of yourself you refuse to face? Jung called this projection. And until you see it, you'll keep fighting enemies that don't exist, except inside you. Watch to the end, and you'll see why your hardest conflicts and even your deepest attractions aren't accidents. They're mirrors. Jung shows us how to stop being ruled by them and how to build relationships with more honesty and freedom. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." It sounds like wisdom, but Jung wasn't being poetic. He was being precise. What he meant is this: when you rage against arrogance, or obsess over selfishness, or admire someone's brilliance as if it were a miracle, you may not be seeing them at all. You may be staring into a mirror. This is projection. The shadow turned outward. The mirror you cannot escape. Think back to the last person who drove you crazy. Maybe they were selfish. Maybe they were arrogant. Maybe they were weak. And you thought, "I would never be like that." But here's Jung's warning. The stronger your reaction, the more likely it's your own shadow you're meeting. What you refuse to admit in yourself, you cannot stop seeing in others. Modern psychology proved him right. In a famous experiment, students were asked a simple but embarrassing question. Would you wear a big sandwich board that said "Repent" across campus? Those who agreed believed most of their peers would also agree. Those who refused believed most others would refuse. Each group assumed their own choice was normal. This is called the false consensus effect. And it is projection in its simplest form. We don't see reality. We see our own reflection painted on the world. Jung said it long before the data. Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. What Jung meant by projection is the psyche's trick for avoiding shame. The ego says, "I am only good, only kind, only rational." But the shadow contains greed, envy, fear, selfishness, and even brilliance, ambition, tenderness. We're too scared to own. Since the ego can't hold both, the unconscious solves the problem. It paints the denied qualities onto someone else. Suddenly, the selfishness isn't mine, it's theirs. The arrogance isn't in me, it's in her. The weakness isn't mine, it's in him. And it works, for a while, until the projections multiply and your world fills with enemies, rivals, and idols who are, in truth, fragments of yourself. Negative projection. The enemy is you, Jung warned. The most dangerous psychological mistake is the projection of the shadow on others. This is the cause of almost all conflicts. Why so dangerous? Because projection makes us blind. Imagine the man who prides himself on being generous. He refuses to see his own selfishness. So he accuses his friends of being greedy, always watching for proof. Or the woman who clings to humility, but secretly longs for recognition. She despises arrogance in others with venom that betrays her own hunger. Projection explains why our anger is so often disproportionate. It is not the other person's flaw we are fighting. It is our own, and studies show how powerful this blindness is. On average, people overestimate by about 25% how many others share their beliefs and attitudes. We live in a bubble of our own. Reflection, mistaking it for reality. Jung would nod. He saw it long ago. Most people don't meet others as they are. They meet their own disowned selves, dressed in another's skin, the golden shadow. Light we deny, but Jung insisted projection is not always about darkness. It can be golden. He wrote, "The meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow. But the shadow is not only dark, it may also be bright." What does that mean? That sometimes we project not our flaws, but our brilliance. Modern research agrees. In one study, people were twice as likely to project their own positive traits onto people they liked than onto those they disliked. Think about it. When you admire someone's courage, creativity, or wisdom, you may be seeing your own potential, unclaimed, unlived, but alive. Jung called this the golden shadow, the light we deny because it feels too risky to own. This explains the magnetic pull of admiration. It's why we fall in love with people who carry qualities we have buried. The tenderness you can't show yourself, you worship in them. The ambition you're afraid of, you idolize in her. Projection is not only the root of hatred, it is the fuel of love. Projection in love and hate relationships are mirrors, and projection is the glass. Jung observed that romance is rarely about the other person at first. It is about what they awaken in you, your golden shadow, your unlived self. Modern psychology confirmed this. In a study of over 200 couples, those who idealized each other weren't more deluded. They were more stable. After 1 year, couples who saw each other in an idealized way were 36% more likely to still be together and reported 20 to 30% higher satisfaction. What does that mean? That projecting your golden shadow in love can be self-fulfilling. The partner begins to grow toward the ideal you see. Love, in this sense, is projection that heals, until reality breaks the spell. But projection also fuels conflict. Families are filled with it. Parents projecting their unmet ambitions onto children. Children projecting blame onto parents. Siblings accusing each other of flaws they cannot face themselves. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Sometimes the reaction is explosive, but even explosions can illuminate what we've buried." Collective projection, societies in denial projection, does not stop with individuals. Whole societies project their shadows. When a culture represses its aggression, it calls other nations violent. When a group denies its fear, it labels outsiders as dangerous. When a people cannot face its humiliation, it finds scapegoats to carry it. Jung saw this in his lifetime. He lived through 2 world wars. He watched Nazi Germany project its shadow onto enemies and minorities with catastrophic results, and studies today show the same pattern. In political debates, people who disagreed with an issue were 40–50% more likely to ascribe selfish motives to the opposing side than those who agreed. In other words, disagreement itself triggers projection of bad intent. Jung's words ring with prophetic weight. The world hangs by a thin thread, and that thread is the psyche of man. Unless we face our own darkness, we will always paint it onto others. And history shows what happens when nations live in projection, recognizing and reclaiming projections. So what do we do with this? Jung didn't say projection could be avoided. He said it must be recognized and withdrawn. The first step is noticing the signs. When someone provokes you more than they should, when you find yourself obsessed with someone, in hatred or admiration, when you insist, "They always make me feel this way." These are clues. The shadow has slipped into disguise. Modern psychology calls this assumed similarity. On average, People assume 20 to 30% more similarity between themselves and others than actually exists, which means your certainty about others is often certainty about yourself. So the second step is reclamation. This means saying, this too is me. The selfishness, the arrogance, the brilliance, the weakness. Projection is the first clue. Integration is the real work. Journaling, self-reflection, and therapy can help. Jung himself used active imagination, dialoguing with inner figures, asking them, "What do you want from me? What are you trying to show me?" And remember, some people live in projection constantly. Studies show individuals high in narcissism are 50% more likely to blame others for their own motives. For them, every mirror is broken. The work is to repair it piece by piece. Turning the mirror inward, Carl Jung's message is clear. The faces you despise, the people you idolize, the ones you cannot forget, they may all be mirrors. To live unconsciously is to be ruled by projections. To withdraw them is to reclaim your life. Jung wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." Projection is not a mistake. It is an invitation. It is the shadow knocking, saying, "You cannot run forever." The question is, will you turn the mirror inward? Because when you do, you discover what Jung discovered. The enemy outside was you all along, and the light you adored in others was yours, waiting to be lived. Next, we enter another doorway into the unconscious, the world of dreams, Jung's hidden door to the soul. At Mindcrafters, this Jung series is only the beginning. Each video is a step deeper into the hidden architecture of the mind, from the shadow and projection to dreams, archetypes, and the path to individuation. If this journey is sparking something in you, don't walk it alone. Join the community, subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who needs these insights.